This happened a long time ago on Christmas Eve. I'm male and was 19 at the time. My family had booked a resort in the mountains. It was me, my little sister, and our parents. We were set to arrive in a few hours. Along the way, however, we were caught in a snowstorm and had come to a complete stop when we reached a lineup of cars. The storm caused the road to the mountains to be closed. We turned around with everyone else. By this time, the storm was getting pretty bad, and it was becoming unsafe to drive. So we stopped at a nearby town. One of the only places that were open on Christmas Eve was a movie theater. We decided to stop there for a snack and watch a movie to let the storm pass. We enter into the lobby, and it's packed with people. I guess everyone else had the same idea. We bought our tickets and popcorn and headed to the theater. The movie was a horror film, something about Christmas. We thought it would be fun to watch. The movie started, and we settled in our seats. The theater was dark and quiet, except for the occasional screams on the screen. The movie was all right, entertaining enough to pass the time. The storm outside was getting worse, and the wind was howling. I hoped that the road would be clear soon, so we could resume our trip. I looked at my watch and saw that it was almost 9 p.m. The movie was about to end. Suddenly, the screen went black. The lights in the theater did not come on. There was a loud bang, and then silence. Everyone in the theater gasped and looked around. Someone shouted,
"What's going on?"
Another voice said,
"Maybe it's a power outage."
I grabbed my phone and tried to turn it on, but it was dead. I realized that I had forgotten to charge it before we left. I cursed under my breath. My dad said,
"Let's wait for the staff to come. Maybe they have a generator or something."
But my sister was scared and wanted to leave. I agreed and suggested we find an exit. We got up from our seats and walked towards the aisle. We could barely see anything in the dark. We stumbled and bumped into other people who were also trying to get out. We heard some screams and cries from the crowd. People are whispering, trying to figure out what's going on. We reached the door and tried to push it open, but it wouldn't budge. We were locked in. Then someone in the crowd shouted, "He's wearing a Santa hat." Another voice,
What happened?
"He stabbed me," followed by people screaming. We have no idea what to do. It's pitch black, beside the lights from some people's cell phones. And apparently there's some crazy guy in here wearing a Santa hat and stabbing people. I heard someone say,
"He's heading to the top row."
My family and I were on the top row. At this point, the whole theater was in a panic, and in the chaos, I was separated from my family. People are moving around, bumping into me. Any one of them could be the guy with the knife. I could hear people yelling that they had been stabbed. The panic in their voices and the smell of blood and popcorn in the air is something I will never forget. I think how scared my little sister must be right now. I don't know if she got separated from mom and dad. I just kept thinking I have to find her and my parents. I start pushing past people and calling their names. When I see a cell phone on the ground with the light on, I picked it up and noticed it was covered in blood. It really hit me like this is actually happening right now. Then suddenly the exit doors by the bottom row burst open, and everyone rushes down, all trying to get out at the same time. I head back to the top row to try and find my family. Using the light on the phone, I make my way to the top, and I can faintly see someone standing at the other end. I called out to him. He didn't say anything back, but started limping towards me. He looked hurt. As he approached, my gut told me to run, but I thought maybe he needed help. When he was only a couple steps away, I lifted the light to look at him. He was wearing jeans, a gray jacket, and his nose was bloody. He said he had gotten trampled by the crowd and he thinks he's got some broken ribs. I helped him down the steps and out the exit. When we got outside, I told him, "I have to find my family." He replied, "Yes, go now. I'll find my way." He rushed off towards the back of the building, which was odd to me. Everyone else was staying around the car park and the front of the theater where there's light and cover from the storm. But he disappeared into the night. I headed to the crowd and found my family. We were all pretty shaken up, but luckily unharmed. Several others had been stabbed or trampled by the crowd. I still had the phone I picked up, so I asked around and quickly found the owner. He was the first who had been stabbed. He told me he unintentionally bumped into the guy and they got into a push and shove. before the guy pulled a knife and stabbed him. And apparently this guy wasn't in his right mind at all, because he decided to go on a wild rampage and attacked other innocent people as well. I asked what he looked like and he said, dark hair, jeans, gray jacket. Oh, and he was wearing a black Santa hat. Then I realized something. The guy I just helped get out the theater, he had something in his hand. It was the black Santa hat. I helped him get away. Police and paramedics arrive on scene soon after. I told them everything that happened. Luckily, there were no life-threatening injuries and everyone made it back home safely. But thanks to the storm, there were no working cameras in the theater, and since it was dark, nobody got a good look at the guy's face, meaning the police couldn't identify him. As far as I know, he's still out there somewhere, wearing his black Santa hat. This happened on Christmas Eve 2021. I was 15 years old, and I decided to stay home alone while my parents and younger siblings went for a drive to look at the Christmas lights in the next town. It was our family tradition, but I wasn't in the mood for it. I just wanted to watch a movie and eat some junk food. I locked the doors, turned on the TV, and settled on the couch. The movie was a horror flick, but I wasn't scared. I had seen it before, and I knew what was going to happen. I was halfway through the movie when I heard a loud thud from the window. I paused the movie and listened. It sounded like someone had thrown something at the glass. I thought maybe it was one of my friends playing a prank on me, but that didn't make sense. I lived on 100 acres of mostly woods, and it was too far away from town for anyone to walk here. Besides, it was snowing heavily outside. Who would be out there in this weather? I wasn't expecting anyone to be out there, but decided to check it out just in case. I grabbed a flashlight and headed to the window. I shone the flashlight around, looking to see if anyone was out there. I scanned the area, but saw nothing and figured I was just hearing things. So I went back to watching the movie. But then, I heard another thud, this time from the back door. I jumped up and ran to the door, and right before I reached it, I saw a note slide in from underneath. I quickly looked through the little glass window but couldn't see anyone. I then picked up the note and written on it was, "Merry Christmas." I felt a chill run down my spine as I read it. Who was out there? And why were they doing this? I backed away from the door and tried calling my parents, but thanks to the snow, I didn't have any reception. I double-checked to make sure all the windows and doors were locked. Each time I checked a window, I felt like someone was right on the other side, watching me. I headed to the living room thinking about what I should do, when all of a sudden both the TV and the lights went out. The power had been cut. Now I'm starting to get worried. I don't know who's out there or what their intentions are. I headed to the front door, flashlight in hand. That's when I saw it. There was another note sitting under the door. I was hesitant to pick it up, but I slowly made my way to it and grabbed it. This time it said, "I'ma get you." And right as I read it, whoever was out there started banging on the door and laughing. I could hear him fucking laughing. All I could think in that moment was, it's Christmas Eve and I'm about to die. I dropped the note and ran to my parents' room. I remembered my dad kept a spare key to his old Camaro in the closet. I thought if I got the key, I could climb through a window and sneak out to the car. By this point, it sounds like he's about to break the door down, and I hear him yelling, "I'ma get you, kid! I'ma get you!" Okay, I'm not staying here to wait for him to break in. I found the key to my dad's car, and as I opened the window, the banging stopped. I waited a while before jumping out, thinking that he's probably going around the back to find a way in. I quietly climbed through the window and snuck around to my dad's Camaro. I didn't see the man anywhere, so I figured he either broke into the house or he went around the back. I opened the door and got in, being careful not to close it all the way to be quiet. My heart dropped when I saw a folded piece of paper on the steering wheel. Was this one of his notes? It can't be. How would he know I was going to get in the car? I didn't want to open it, but I had to. I couldn't just leave without checking it. I unfolded the paper and read what it said. "Look behind you." I immediately jumped out of the car, fumbled for my flashlight, and shone it through the window. I saw his silhouette in the back seat. He was actually in there. He somehow knew I was going to try and leave in the Camaro, and he was waiting for me. I ran back to the house and found the front door wide open. He must have gotten it open with all the banging earlier. I went inside and watched the Camaro from the window. It was around 9 p.m. by now, and I knew my parents would be back soon. I didn't take my eyes off of that car for at least 15 minutes before I see my parents coming up the driveway. I ran out screaming like a crazy person. My dad jumped out of the car asking what's wrong. All I could say was, "He's in the Camaro." My dad says, "Who is? Who's in my car?" I explained everything the best I could, and my dad went over to confront the man. Only there is no man. It's a jacket with the hood up, on a piece of wood from our wood pile. My dad thought I was playing a joke on him until he saw that the front door had been kicked in. He told us to wait in the car and to call the police while he checked the house. My dad came out 10 minutes later and said the back door was open and there were fresh footprints in the snow leading to the woods behind the house. Police arrived not long after and searched the house and woods. The man was never found, but what they did find still freaks me out to this day. On the dining room table, they found one of our large kitchen knives, my cell phone, and another handwritten note. The note read, "Got you. P.S. See you soon." That's not even the worst part. When I opened my phone, I saw that the camera had been used. There was pictures of me looking out the window when I thought the man was in the Camaro. But in reality, he was actually standing only a few feet behind me the entire time. There were also pictures of my dad when he checked the Camaro, which meant this psycho was still in the house watching us only moments before my dad checked to see if he was there. I don't know what his intentions were, whether he thought this was some kind of joke or something, but this guy was obviously unhinged. Unfortunately, this story doesn't end here. 2 years later, we're still in the same house, and we haven't had any sign of the man, or any trouble since, until today. It's almost Christmas again, and I discovered another one of his notes. It said, "I'm back. Merry fucking Christmas."